We turn our attention now on the business desk to how an era of persistent load shedding is having an impact on the legal obligation of landlords within the real estate industry. Just last week on the AM report, the highlight was on increased insurance claims as a result of incidents related to power cuts. And now we take it further into the property sector as load shedding continues. TPN Credit Bureau's legal counsel, Rowan Terry, speaks to us now. Thank you so much for your time, Rowan. Of course, we know that the rolling blackouts continue, and there seems to be no end in sight, really. But how much of a change are we seeing in what is expected when it comes to the legal obligation of a tenant? Essentially, the change in dynamics between one who is renting and the tenant.
Good morning to Ms. Sang. Thank you so much for having me online, and a big good morning to your viewers. So I think TPN have been getting this legal query for quite some time now, since load shedding has been increased. Whether or not landlords are obliged to provide generators, inverters, to continue the utility supply during load shedding. And the answer is quite simple. The answer is no. With load shedding, the landlord is not in breach of the lease agreement, and load shedding is obviously out of control of the landlord. Therefore, there is no legal obligation that is created for a landlord to provide a generator to their tenant during load shedding.
So what type of impact then is this having for landlords, particularly at a selling point of view? Legally, yes, maybe a landlord is not obliged to offer a tenant with the likes of a generator, an inverter and so on, but there seems to be a gap there that is being created for this particular element to become a selling point when it comes to improving one's advantage in making their property desirable.
Absolutely. So while there is no legal obligation on landlords to provide a generator, it's definitely providing a gap in the market to increase higher rental returns, increase your property value. I think a lot of people nowadays will be looking for properties that are advertised with a generator or an inverter to ensure continued utility supply. So it's definitely creating a gap in the market here for landlords to take this opportunity and ensure that they have a generator there for their tenants to continue utility supply.
On the flip side, though, is there maybe some sort of trend that may be emerging of tenants moving out of particular areas solely because of the weight that load shedding has on the tenant-landlord relationship? The reason why I ask this is that, because of load shedding, one would have to additionally buy an inverter from your own pocket, and many of us do not afford the likes of a generator. If you are using candlelight, candles too are expensive, so therefore one's disposable spend is becoming quite heavy and under pressure.
Absolutely. It is a rather large expense to bring on, especially as a landlord. We're not seeing that a lot of tenants are leaving the properties, moving out, cancelling their lease agreements due to this. Obviously, it's not possible because the landlord is not in breach of their lease agreement. However, when it comes to generators, with the installation of a generator in that particular property, with the aid of an addendum where it will set out all the terms and conditions of the usage of such generator, there you would be able to incur the costs and include them for a tenant to share the pro rata usage costs of that generator. So while it is an extremely expensive addition to the property, there is an addition with an addendum to include who's liable for the maintenance costs, who's liable for diesel costs, and to be able to ensure that that's set out so both landlord is receiving happy rental in the month and the tenant is continuing having electricity at all times.
Rowan, we've also been getting reports of load shedding affecting the pumping of water, and therefore availability of this resource has become quite a challenge in some areas. How is that a matter of concern, particularly because the obligation then, who does it lie on? The landlord, the municipality, or the failures of Eskom?
So absolutely. We also have issues down in Nelson Mandela Bay, Day Zero looming. Water restrictions are being in place, and the same answer applies here as well. The landlord is not, there's no obligation created on part of the landlord to provide a water tank or additional water to a tenant. However, that does, again, not stop the landlord from providing such JoJo tank or water tank, however it may be, and also share that cost with the tenant by the aid of an addendum. So it's exactly the same as the load shedding situation. But I would say that, again, there's no obligation created on the landlord.
That's where we leave it with Rowan Terry, legal counsel at TPN Credit Bureau, this morning on the business desk, talking to us at length about the dynamics that may be changing between the relationship of a landlord and a tenant, given the impact of load shedding, the likes of needing a generator or an inverter, and the effects this has on water supply.